Hey guys, just watched Avengers the Endgame movie. Yeah, man, I gotta say I prefer Infinity War. I realize that it's unfair to kind of well, it's unfair to judge them, equally or compare them really. But it, I just really feel like Infinity War was the perfect ending for Avengers because here, you got all the Avengers movies where they've won all their battles, but here comes the war, and they didn't win the war. And it's jaw dropping, and it's really really mind boggling because in itself, I think Infinity War should be studied. It's a perfect film language. It's a perfect cinematography style. It's a perfect. It's just for me. It's really good. Okay, you can say that the Wakanda scene was pretty meh, but I mean that in itself, you needed to see some fight scenes and you needed to see like some conflict before the final boss scene. It's like playing a game where you gotta fight all the minions first and then you get to the main boss. But in Endgame, it's more of the visual, like novel style, or rather like an adventure style, where you have to follow the characters along the way to the end, and then you fight the big horde all together. By the way, there's not gonna be much. There's not gonna be any spoilers. Sorry, that was my chair. But I really want to talk about the different styles that they had. For me personally, I definitely prefer Infinity War over this one because I feel like if I watch Infinity War again, I wouldn't be tired because there's no point in this. I would say, oh, this is pointless. You don't need that. But there is some scenes in Endgame. I was like, I really feel you could have trimmed this down, or rather, this. I keep going back and forth on this in my mind, but I still kind of believe that they could have done it in two parts because I think they could have written it in a way that could have been in two parts. You know what I mean? Like Endgame Part 1 would be them confronting, um, the boss meaning whomever, uh, which is from Infinity War. You should know it's Thanos. But then the second half is all about, I don't know, them thinking, was there a better way, or something like that. I don't know, but there's no point in this where I was like, okay, I don't really know why this scene is here. I fully understand why all of the scenes were there. I'm just saying that some of it could be cut, while others, could have been left alone. Yes, fine, but I really felt the time on this, and I don't know if I'm alone. Maybe I'm alone. I don't know. Maybe a second watch would change my mind, but it's hard to see because I tried to give Captain Marvel a second chance, and that didn't do good for Captain Marvel. And yeah, I'm not even going to talk about her because that would be giving away spoilers. So just let's just leave it at there. But in itself, yes, I get it. We get all the closure on the characters that we have now, but I don't feel like they completed they fully committed on completing the Thanos arc. Because yes, you can say that, alright, you can leave the Thanos arc at the part where he's at the planet and said, I will smile on a grateful universe. Fine, and then that would be the end. There wouldn't mean a need for the end game, but because our heroes need to win, we also need to see a Thanos end arc. Meaning, okay, would we give him a second chance. And that's what I thought the third act would have been, or at least not really second chance, but would we, make him feel, what we felt, you know. But I don't think it even answered that big question, because instead of doing a proper movie, they backtracked and kind of had to pander very much to a lot of hidden agenda in Hollywood nowadays. And I really feel very, very vindicated, or like very, very hurt as a fan, because I don't need to see that pandering. We've seen that pandering done before in other superhero movies, but Avengers doesn't need it, because they never really did it in the first place, because they just focused on the individual stories first, then they built the team, then now it's the time for the end of the team. But I don't think they really thought of the the slowly disintegrate, like slowly dismantling. You know when you build a model car, and then they're like, oh man, this is so awesome, but then your like, kid sibling like just smashes it. I kind of feel like that's what they did with this movie, but not in that drastic way. It still is respectful. It still is the way it is, but I just feel like some of it is rushed and some of it is not, because in some of the scenes I'm like, okay, I get why this is here, but could we speed it up a little bit, because I, I don't need to know everyone's thought, except if you're gonna be more into the whole like, oh, like remember when we did this together. Like, there's some scenes that are there, but I don't think there's enough of that, because they aren't they aren't th- it's hard to talk about it, because for me it is all about who they're fighting for at the end of the day, and they don't really even know who they're fighting for, except when they're talking about their friends or family that were lost during the snap. But without that whole, if you remove Hawkeye, if you remove Hawkeye's whole storyline, um if you remove Scott Lang's whole storyline, this movie would be very, very empty, because you only have Captain America thinking about his actions, and then you have Natasha, whom we've never really had an emotional attachment to outside of maybe um, the second Avengers, Ultron, where she kind of had a thing with, but then again, she had a kind of thing with Hawkeye as well, so a kind of a thing with Hulk, kind of a thing with Hawkeye. It's weird. It's the chemistry, but it's there. So I don't know. Then you also have a newcomer, the newcomer being Captain Marvel. But you don't show her too much. That's fine, because she's a newcomer. And then you have the feelings that are culminated from the the whole other Avengers, because they need to be seen, because they have lost the most. Because let's say Groot was lost during the snap, right? So it should be Rocket Raccoon talking about it. Thor talking about how he lost his brother because of Thanos, and I don't. They didn't do that, because they focused on the dialogue, and while that's fine for a 3-hour movie, it's not fine, because film should be visual, and the visuals were amazing in some points. The CG for the flying wasn't so great, but overall the visuals should be there, and it should be telling the story for you. You don't need to hear the characters go on and on. Some scenes maybe, some scenes no. So I don't know. I always split the movie into three arcs, and for me there was no second arc because or act, sorry, second act. There was no second act because that was total blank, empty. Like there was not any movement there because I if you cut it out and you skipped to where the whole building of the third arc was act was, I wouldn't have minded because I was like, why is this here? You don't need to do as much as you needed. You want to go to this character, fine, but then you need to move on quickly because we are on a time heist. We are on a time race, and we have no time because our opponent is probably will know because he is a good villain, so definitely he will pick up whatever you're gonna do. So okay, but the bottom line is the first act was good, the third act was good. Nothing in the middle. I feel like they took too much from Captain Marvel, really. Like, because I was like watching this and I was like, you know what? They took too much from Captain Marvel because this is the problem when you integrate a character arc that was so close to an Avengers one, especially the Infinite War one. That bugged me because that was a flaw for me because that was one where they just introduced Black Panther. They want to front and run him, and I don't really mind that really actually, but it's also sometimes a problem because when you front run someone, you're saying, okay, we've all seen these other characters here. We're gonna front run this character. Is he interesting enough to be front run? Yes, in only one whole scene. Fine, that was fine. But for Endgame, it was two whole scenes, and I don't even really think they were really needed. Like, okay, the first scene you definitely don't need it, but the end scene maybe you need it because there's a very very big fight scene. I don't want to really say it's spoiler anymore, but there's a really big fight scene, as all superhero movies actually. But yeah, there's a really big fight scene, and maybe you need her in it. I don't know, but it's just I don't know. I've heard some people say that there was gonna be more Captain Marvel in this, and I was like, ooh, that would have hurt this movie a lot because even though I've said a lot of flaws, there's a lot of things I appreciated for like piecing all the other movies together in this movie and letting us say goodbye was a very good way. It was a very Return of the Kings, and in itself I was like, okay, this reminds me of the Return of the King because I skipped a lot of it because I ain't got no time, man. Like, what the heck is this? Like, you drag it out too much to the point where even the fans are like, oh man, I heard someone behind me fall asleep, and I was like, you know what? I don't blame this guy because there's some scenes really that just dead zone. Like, you're just like, what? Why? But also it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe cut it a little and it'll be fine, but I don't know how much of it to cut though because it is hard to see the way they did it. I can see that it was hard for them to say goodbye though because at the end it was a very nice wrapped up little ending. I'm not gonna spoil it obviously. Um, and at the beginning I really felt like, okay, we know the fans know this, so let's get this done, and then dead zone, and then pick up because we need to bring back the other Avengers. So yeah, man, take it as it is. But overall, I still have to give it a 7 because the visuals are amazing. There was still some stuff I really enjoyed. I really can't say what I enjoyed because that would be spoilers. So I don't know, man. I can't rank this higher than Infinity War because Infinity War was a solid 8.5 for me. Every time you make me force me to watch it, I'll be like, okay, let go, because I don't see myself rewatching this. There's no part of this that I was like, all right, this is gonna be rewatchable for me. Maybe the first time, maybe very small, maybe, but yeah, 7, 7 on 7. It's still good. It's still good. So watch it if you want. Go ahead and judge for yourself, man. I know I'm gonna be mostly alone on this because I'm just not. I just don't feel it. I just don't. I was a bit emotional at some scenes, but I just don't feel as much awe as I did Infinity War. I wasn't sitting there like, okay, this is the perfect ending. This is the end game. This is what we were building up to. This was what Infinity was building up to. This is the end game. No, this wasn't for me. So take it for what it's worth. Take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because this is just my opinion. You can have yours. So that's about it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.